At the US ambassador's residence in Havana last month, journalists from around the world gathered to hear the latest on the diplomatic talks with Cuba. Among them was a Cuban-American businessman called Hugo Cancio, with a vested interest in the outcome.
For Cubans living abroad, we have a legitimate desire to come back and to help and to participate in the rebuilding of our country. It is our right.
Cancio is among a handful of Cuban Americans who have come back, successfully skirted US sanctions, and set up businesses here. At his offices in Havana, he directs a local staff of writers and editors who put out 2 magazines. The focus is on Cuban art, culture and tourism, with no mention of the country's politics. But as publisher, Cancio rarely stays quiet on the subject.
From business to politics to shaping US policy towards Cuba. That's been my goal, my objective for 20 years.
And in promoting those goals,
the numbers are there.
He's often promoted himself.
I always like to focus on the people. So it affects the people. It affects my family. It affects my friends. It affects the Cuban people.
He first left Cuba in 1980 as a 16-year-old on the Mariel boat lift. That left him in South Florida, where he joined a massive community of Cuban exiles. But Cancio's family ties to America go back several generations. His great-great-grandfather worked with the US military when it briefly governed Cuba at the turn of the last century. And his father was also a well-known figure on the island as a member of the hugely popular group Los Zafiros. Hugo followed his father into the industry, marketing Cuban musicians in Miami.
We have promoted Cuban culture in this community, brought Cuban artists, produced concerts that started changing the hearts and minds of the people of my community.
Many Cuban Americans believe the communist revolution would ruin Cuba. But Cancio told us that although Miami will remain his home, he's definitely changed his own mind about Cuba's potential.
I've lived here for 35 years, more than I lived in Cuba. But I also love my country of origin. So for me, it's like my mother and my dad needs to get together and work out their differences.
As the 2 governments continue working on their political differences, Cancio says he's focused on brokering business deals that will prove profitable and patriotic.
Is it possible to both make money and help the people in Cuba? Can you do one without the other?
I think one complements the other. And I think this is the difference between me and the CEO of another company, whether American or Cuban American, that I also bring a lot of passion.
Very few discussions about Cuba's future lack passion. But for the moment at least, most businesses here still lack investment.